Hi, welcome to Galactic Jamie. Each week I come on here to talk about my two favorite topics, outer space and nail polish. So this week I am super excited about my nail art and also my outer space topic. So it's a little bit different than normal. Since I was a little girl, I have always been obsessed with ancient Egypt and mummies, due mainly to the best movie that came out when I was a kid, The Mummy, with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. I mean, I was literally obsessed. Like, I tried to learn hieroglyphics and I studied all of the ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses and their myths. I mean, I wanted to be basically Evie from that movie. You're wondering, what's a place like me doing in a girl like this? So all of that to say, today's nail art is going to be inspired by ancient Egypt and hieroglyphics. But first, let's talk about outer space. So like I said, today's topic is a little bit different than usual. So for today, I'm going to be talking about the ancient Egyptian civilization and their relationship with the stars and looking up at outer space and astronomy. So the Egyptians, they actually tracked the sun and its movement. So when they would create some buildings, they would have it where when the sun was coming up on a very specific day of the year, it had to be that exact day and that exact time, the sun would go through a certain spot in the building and highlight like a rendering of an ancient Egyptian god or goddess. And just for them to figure that out is crazy. I mean, think about how much work that took to say, okay, the light's going to shine through on this specific day at this specific time. And so we're going to create this little hole in the wall so that it shines through right at this spot only on this day. I mean, that's so cool. I really want to go see stuff like that. I think it's incredible. So another huge thing ancient Egyptians did is when they built the pyramids, they actually had it pointing to these stars called the Indestructibles. So the reason these stars were called the Indestructibles is that they circled around the North Pole, so they were always seen. They never went away. They always saw those stars in their sky. So because they never went away and they always saw these specific stars, they actually believed that they were connected to the afterlife and eternity. So when they created the pyramids, they pointed the pyramids towards those stars, believing that their king would move on and live in those stars after death, and that he would be able to pass and be part of these indestructible stars. So one really cool thing I found out about recently is that the ancient Egyptian had these things called deacons. And so these deacons were basically like these small clusters of stars or constellations that they used for tracking. So they had about 36 groups of these star clusters or constellations that they followed to help keep track of time. So they used these deacons and they created star charts, these diagonal star charts, which I'll put an image of above. So the ancient Egyptians used these star charts to keep track of time. And this is actually one of the first times in history that we know of that humans use celestial bodies and stars to keep track of time. So it's really interesting that back in 2000 BC, the ancient Egyptians were looking up at the stars and noticing these patterns, noticing when they were coming and going, and using that to track their time. So these star charts and deacons, they actually drew in the lid of some coffins. Now, it's not all the coffins, there are just some that they had drawn this in. And I'm really curious of why they drew this on the inside lid of a coffin. I mean, I know that they created coffins and they did artwork on coffins to be very specific to the deceased. So in general, typically the coffins had like images of some goddesses and gods that would hopefully lead the deceased into the afterlife. But they also did a lot of like very personal, specific drawings and things on the coffins for the deceased. So I'm really interested to see with these diagonal star charts, why were they on these people's coffins? Were these people who just like really loved the stars, or were they maybe astronomers of that time? I tried looking into it and doing more research, but I really didn't find any definitive answer on why some of these coffins had star charts in them. But I love to like think about and imagine why they did that. So I'm curious, what do you think? Do you think that these star charts were put on the coffins because these people just really loved looking at the stars? Do you think they were some of the people who helped create these star charts and helped track them? Do you think they were astronomers of the ancient Egyptian times? I'm super curious of what you think too. I love having discussions about these things. So please comment below and let me know what you think. I personally, I don't know. I think there's a lot of reasons, but I think it'd be cool to think about, like, maybe it's because those people really loved outer space and loved looking at the stars. I just think that's neat. So that's all I have to say today about ancient Egypt and how they used astronomy and how they used the stars to keep track of time. But like I said, this topic was a little bit different than my typical outer space topics, but I did want to dive into that today because I find it super interesting and I figured you'd probably find it interesting too. So enough of that. Now it's time for the nail art portion of the video. So like I said earlier, this manicure was inspired by the best movie from my childhood, The Mummy. So let's get to it. As always, I start all of my manicures with a clean, dry nail and also some base coat. Today I'm using Orly's Bonder base coat. So next I'm going in with my base color for my manicure, which today I'm using the OPI nail polish in the shade Black Onyx. I wanted a really true black for the base for this manicure because later on I'm going to be using gold and I wanted the gold to pop against the black. So I think, at least for me, whenever I see a lot of ancient Egyptian things, there's always a lot of like black with gold, and I think it's just such a beautiful combination, and I'm super excited for you to see both of these polishes together as I continue this manicure. So after I'm done with the first coat, I clean up any spots I needed to. I go ahead and go in with the second coat. Like I said, I just really want a very beautiful black, simple, clean base for this nail art look. And this Black Onyx is one of my favorite black polishes, by the way. It's the perfect true black. So now that that is on my nails and it's dry, I'm going to go ahead and put liquid latex around my fingernails on my finger so that when I do my stamping, it doesn't leave nail polish on my actual like skin of my finger. You can use any type of liquid latex for this. You just have to wait for it to dry, and it makes it so much easier when you're stamping, especially when you're stamping larger images that are going to be larger than your nail. So now I'm going to do the stamping, and I'm using OPI in This Gold Slays Me. And then this plate is actually from Maniology, and it's the M063 plate. It has some wolf images on it, as well as a lot of ancient Egypt images, which is why I personally bought this plate, because, like I said, I love ancient Egypt, and I think it's beautiful. Here I am stamping the first nail. So I think that turned out really well, and now I'm going to take the liquid latex off to get all of that extra gold polish off of my finger. And then I'm going to go up in with a cleanup brush later and clean up those spots that are left. So after you stamp, you want to clean off your stamper with a piece of tape and clean off the stamping plate with 100% acetone. And once it's clean, I could go ahead and stamp my second nail. So you want to put enough polish so that when you pull down the polish, it coats the actual stamping image. And you want to use a thick, hard card. I like using old gift cards. I feel like they work the best for me personally. This is the clear ice cube stamper from Maniology. And it's really simple and easy to stamp. I'm probably going to do a series soon on the how-to basics of stamping. I think it's super easy and really fun to do. You could get so many cool looks from stamping. They have so many plates out there available to do stamping. On my accent nail, I wanted to do something a little bit different, just to switch up with the hieroglyphics, so I did a stamping of Anubis. I just thought it would look really cool. Sometimes I think, at least for me personally, when I do a pattern, so like the hieroglyphics I consider a pattern, I like switching it up on one of the nails just to add a little variety. So that's why I did the Anubis on my ring finger. And now I'm going to do the hieroglyphics on my pinky as well. I really wanted the little cat in there, so I made sure that he was on my nail. So now that I'm done with the stamping, I'm going in with the Maniology water-based smudge-free top coat. So this top coat really helps from smudging after you stamp. I found that it's a lot easier to just use this than to try and float a quick dry top coat, but you can also do that too. So now I'm going in with my regular RapiDry Top Coat. This just gives an extra layer of protection. And I always try to do a quick dry top coat on top of all of my manicures just because it helps the manicure dry quicker, and it also provides a lot of protection for that specific manicure. And there you have my ancient Egypt, the mummy inspired nails. I absolutely love this. I can't stop staring at them on my actual fingernails. I think it's just so pretty and fun. So obviously this was a very specific manicure inspired by my favorite childhood movie, The Mummy, but you can also create this look at home. I used this specific plate from Maniology because it has the hieroglyphics and it has some other ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses and mummy and different symbols from ancient Egypt. But this plate is actually on sale right now on Maniology's website. But if you're not able to get this one, I believe some other companies also have ancient Egyptian style plates. I believe MoU London has some, and I'm not sure off the top of my head right now who else has some, but I know some other places have them available. So it's not going to be super hard to find to be able to do a look like this at home, but I just think it's really cool. I love the hieroglyphics, and also this could also be a fun nail art design to do even like for Halloween or something like that. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up, and also if you love outer space and nail polish, please consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my videos. Well, I hope you all have a stellar week. Bye!